What's up, everybody? Welcome to the NoLiabilities podcast. I have here with me today one of my really good buddies, actually my first Taekwondo instructor, and the man that got me introduced to jiu-jitsu. What's up, Brian? Good to have you on, man.
How's it going, man? Waiting on that gym to open back up.
Yeah, I know, just waiting on the gym so we can all start rolling again.
But in the meantime, we'll go get me a cake pop.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there you go.
So I had a few questions for you, man. I mean, you're the one who got me started in jiu-jitsu.
Yes, sir.
You know, you taught me a lot of the things that I know with striking, with the Taekwondo and stuff like that. I just wanted to get you kind of your perspective, and we're not going to do this on every podcast, but just so you guys can get a deeper understanding of where I came from, and so my audience can get to know me a little bit better.
Yeah.
Can you kind of run us through, like, when I first came into Taekwondo, how you and I met, and kind of some of the experiences that we shared together?
Yeah. Well, first thing I remember you coming into the school, man, you were a quiet, very shy kid. I kind of gravitated towards that because, I mean, I'm one of those people, I feel like I like to bring people out of their shells. You know, like I like to help you figure out who you are, you know, and I seen a kid that, you know, clearly was quiet, shy, probably bullied. I assume that, you know, in my head, you know, just because I was bullied myself, so I can kind of point that out. But you kind of took to it like a sponge, you know, like you really did. Like I always tell everybody, like Chad is like a sponge, man. Like anything I showed him, it was like one time. That's all I had to show you was one time. But I think we met through the summer program. We didn't meet through that, but I think that's when we became more close. You know, it was through the summer program. I was running a summer program up there, and you know, throughout the day, like a daycare type thing. You know, you guys come hang out with me and stuff like that, and we became really close. You know, we were hanging out every single day, 5 days a week for the entire summer. You know, and then on top of that, you were taking classes with me after that. You know, so you were spending the majority of your, you know, your adolescent life with me. You know, so I think that was why we became really close. I think we both connect up here, you know, mentally. And I think that's why we're still friends today, you know, because, you know, we connect, you know.
It's kind of a crazy thing that, I mean, I knew you when I think it was 7 years old, right? 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we're pretty much been lifelong friends here now. I mean, you're, how old are you now?
I'm 30.
You're 30 and I'm 25, you know, so we've known each other since I was 7. That's just that's a crazy thing to think about, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things that you don't realize until you sit there and you're like, man, I've known this dude my whole life.
Yeah,
Like,
really. And we still play, you know, video games together every night, you know, like we talk every single day.
So Ryan and I play Xbox, you know, pretty much every night, around like 10:30. My gamer tag is Chad Hardy, Jiu-Jitsu, or sorry, Chad Hardy JJ. It
Yep.
wouldn't let me put Jiu-Jitsu for some reason.
That's a cuss word.
If y'all want to join. But anyways, me and Ryan, you know, we play a lot of Xbox together. We play Apex Legends. Do a pretty good job on there.
Like it's cool to me, man. What would have happened if you wouldn't have walked into that Taekwondo school? You know, where would your life have gone if you wouldn't have, you know?
Yeah.
Like, where would my life be if I wouldn't have walked into that Taekwondo school at 8 years old, you know, a bullied, shy kid, you know, same as you know, like,
Yeah, I think
it's really weird, you know?
we're both one of those people where we think on things a lot, and that's one of the things that I've thought on a lot. For the people that don't know, Ryan knows, you know, my mom passed away when I was, like, I want to say 5 years old, something like that. My dad was involved in a lot of stuff in Indiana, so we ended up moving to Louisville, Kentucky, I think when I was around like 6 or 7, like I said. And then my first day of school, this kid punched me in the nose, and my nose was bleeding a little bit, and I just stood there. I was in shock because no one had ever put their hands on me before. You know, someone that I didn't know just came up to me for no reason. You know, I was at a ghetto school. He just freaking punched me right in the nose. I stood there and looked at him like, what the hell is that for, man? You know,
That's exactly what happened to me with the first time I got beat up. I was sitting on a sand pile playing. Some kid randomly runs up to me and just starts beating my ass. Like, I'm just laying there, like, covering up. I'm like, for what? Like, what did I do?
Yeah.
I don't know what I did. Still to this day, I still don't know what I did.
I think of that a lot. I'm like, man, that, like, I didn't do anything. I didn't talk to anybody. Like, you know, it was my first day of being at that school and just punched me. But anyways, after that, my dad decided, like, that day we went up to the Taekwondo school, and that's when I met you, Thomas Carrier, and
Edens.
Edens, yeah, Edens.
Yep.
And from there, man, it's history. I mean, you guys kind of took me under your wing. You guys showed me how to do some strikes and stuff like that. You know, a lot of people make fun of Taekwondo and, karate and stuff like that. But can you give us a little insight about our Taekwondo school? Because I feel like our Taekwondo school is a little different from most.
We were very different. That's why I hate to even tell people I'm a Taekwondo black belt. Like, I just say I'm a black belt, and I just say I'm a kickboxer, because that's technically what we are. We're kickboxers. You know, I mean, you obviously, you're a jiu-jitsu player now and everything, but me, I'm a kickboxer. Yeah, I know jiu-jitsu and things like that, but straight up, I'm a kickboxer. That's what I do. You know, I always tell people we're kickboxers because we were, like you said, we were different, man. Like, when we came into a tournament and you seen Louisville, Kentucky on our bags or on our uniforms, you know, instantly you seen people like,
oh, they knew it was going down.
Exactly. That they knew that we didn't care about a medal or a trophy. You know, we just wanted blood. You know, like, that's really what we were. Like, there were, like, I'm sitting right here, so I can't really do much. But like, for example, like when I got my black belt, I used to go to different schools, you know, and train with different schools just because I wanted to see different styles. You know, I mean, you know how I was. I always wanted to go and find a different type of martial arts and study that to come back and show you guys something cool. You know, that's how it started with the jiu-jitsu. I found something cool, and I was like, I'm going to show my the kids that I teach up there. You know, so I go to this school, and it was a YMCA, so I know it's not very reputable in the first place. But they go sparring stance, and this kid goes like this, like his hands were down like this, and I was like, kind of looked at him weird. I was like, okay. You know, like,
yeah, you get
up with him.
A good boxing stance. You know, your hands are up
like
high.
A good kickboxing, you know, chin down, hands up stance. And I was just like, this kid's in trouble. Like, and they were. Like, every time I went to one of those schools and they sparred like this with their hands down, I was just like, I understand you think you're fast and everything, and you can jump out of the way of everything, but man, we just weren't the school to mess with, you know, in our particular organization. That's why the other night when we were playing Xbox, you know, I was talking about black belt camp. Man, I wish you could have experienced black belt camp, because that's where we did high rank testing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so the first time I went down there, you know, we walked in, Edens, you know, Thomas Carrier's there, you know, a few other guys were there with us. We're walking up with our bags. We literally get there as national testing's happening. You know, guys are testing for 4th, 5th, 6th degree black belt, you know. Edens just looks at us all and says, get your pads on. One of the funnest things I've ever done in my life, you know, with Taekwondo. I mean, that was, you know how we are. We want to hit people, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that was always frowned upon in Taekwondo, kind of, you know, like, especially at tournaments, not at national testing, you know? So I think that's where we were different. We were a little more, if I'm going to put it in like one word, we were violent. You know, we were violent, you know, and I think that's why we moved over to what we moved over to, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just us either. There was a lot of people at our Taekwondo school, like, they were coming at you. It was, it's almost like when you go to a good jiu-jitsu gym or like a competitive jiu-jitsu gym, you walk in there, people are freaking sweating, you know, the whole room is like, you can see the windows and the walls sweating. People are just
windows
going
all
at
fogged
it.
up.
You know, you see people with this look of aggression on their face, and they're freaking going at it like it's a real match.
Yeah, like, perfect example. You remember Mark Marlowe?
Yeah.
Dude had some hands. Like, I mean, really had hands. You know, but he was a kickboxer. He's a Taekwondo guy, but he studied boxing quite a bit, and that's what he liked to focus on. That's another thing I liked about Edens a lot, is that Edens didn't put you in a box. You know, he didn't say that this is what we do, this is what you have to do, you know. He basically let you develop your own style and use it out there, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, I always respected him for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let's move back a few things here. So we were talking about the tournaments. One of the best memories that I have of Taekwondo tournaments, and I can still remember it to this day, it was me, you, and I think maybe our buddy Jake and maybe someone else. It was like 4 of us. So you go out there, you're pretty much just destroying this guy. You know, you're hitting.
Was this Knoxville?
Yeah, Knoxville.
Yeah,
you're hitting him. You're hitting him with everything. You know, you're hitting, you know, perfect combinations. Like, this kid probably never seen anything like that because he's so used to doing. I guess I don't know if I could call it pure Taekwondo. But, you know,
I would call it traditional, like a traditional martial arts.
Yeah,
like
traditional martial
point
arts.
sparring.
Compared to us, where we're practicing boxing, kickboxing, Taekwondo, like, you know, we had a good combination of everything. But anyways, my point being, you got disqualified from, what was it, 2 matches that day?
Yeah, something like that.
For being too aggressive. And I was like, aren't we supposed to be fighting each other?
That was the turning point for me.
Yeah, me and my dad were looking at each other. I was like, did Franke just get disqualified for going too hard in a fight? Like, how do you go too hard in a fight?
Yeah, you're supposed to draw back and Taekwondo point sparring or something. I don't know.
So
But I got in trouble at that tournament too because I threw my helmet. I remember Edens yelled at me. But I mean, I was pissed. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, this is a fight, and you just kind of, pardon my language, you kind of pussied out of it. You know, if you get disqualified for aggression in a combat sport.
I thought that was the whole point of this. You know, so, and here's what I teach my students. I mean, you're gonna, the way you train is gonna be the way that you compete. And the way that you train is going to be the way that you defend yourself. So if you're defending yourself by doing all these light, you know, I mean, you can go light, don't get me wrong. You don't have to kill each other every single time.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
But you do need those times where you're just going head to head. Otherwise, how do you expect to protect yourself? Or how do you expect to go out there and do that in an actual match?
Yeah, how do you know what to expect?
Yeah, because, I mean, once you get out there, people are going to be, it doesn't matter if it's a jiu-jitsu tournament, it's a boxing tournament, like, they're trying to take your head off.
They're going to hit you with everything.
Yeah.
You know? And if you're just getting hit with pillow punches or, you know, if somebody's popping a submission on you softly, you know, and then somebody really rings a rear naked choke on you, you're in trouble. Like, you're in big trouble. You know, if you go to sleep in 10 seconds with this little pillow choke and then you go to sleep in 2 seconds with a real choke, I mean, you're going to be like, whoa, that was different, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to be a smack in the face.
So another funny thing, so you had gotten disqualified, and I was like, man, that's kind of weird. So, and then I go out there, and, you know, me as a kid, like, I was pretty much a brawler. Like, I loved getting hit, and if you hit me, I was going to hit you 10 times harder.
You're like a pit bull.
Yeah, I was going to keep coming at you.
Yeah, the more you got hit, the more anger you got.
Yeah, so. I used to love doing stand-up, and I'm smiling talking about it now. Like, you know, I would love to get back into it, but we'll get into why I stopped doing the stand-up and stuff like that later. But anyways, we're in this tournament, and my dad, he only has one hand, so my dad got shot in the head. Actually, I think he shot himself in the head, something like that. Something happened, you know, he got shot. One of his arms is paralyzed, so he's trying to work this camcorder with one hand, and we just got it. He couldn't figure it out. So he's like facing downwards, you know, trying to figure out how to get this thing. I kicked this kid so hard with a stepping side kick that he did like 3 backflips out of the ring.
Yeah, I remember that, actually.
we still got it on camera, and my dad's looking down. It finally starts, and all you see is this kid rolling towards his feet, and he's like, what just happened? And then we look up, and I get disqualified for kicking the kid too hard. And I'm like, I was so mad. But that was one of the main turning points for me as well. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I need to find something where I can actually,
like,
you know, go
I kind of want to hurt people, but I don't want to hurt innocent people, you know? Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want to hurt people that want to be hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I get in there, I know you can hurt me, or I know I'm going to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Let's hurt each other, you know?
I think
mutual thing.
I think that was a big turning point for me in my MMA career as well. And I say MMA career, like, I had one fight. But I got in there and I was fighting this dude. Supposedly he was a purple belt. You know, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about the dude. 'Cause, you know, he's a nice enough guy. But we get in there, he throws a strike, I take him down, and I'm punching this guy hard, you know, messing his face up. I get the rear naked choke, and then afterwards, you know, I was pumped up. It was like I was riding a roller coaster, but then I was like, man, like, it didn't feel good to me beating up on someone that I was just, it would almost be like me going to the street and picking a fight with some random guy that's never done anything. Or, you know, one of my students, or not one of my students, someone comes in off the street to try a class, and I just freaking just destroy him.
So basically what you're saying is, like, it felt like you beat up a helpless person almost, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't feel good about myself.
There's no honor in it.
Yeah.
You know? I've done that before too, man. Like, you know, being guys in high school and stuff like that, like, we used to hit each other in the nuts all the time, you know, just messing around. I guess, you know, one day I tapped this dude on the nuts, and it wasn't a good day for him. You know, I guess he was having a bad day. We used to do this to each other all the time. He ran up and he swung on me, you know, like, he swung on me, and I was like, you know, I kind of went backwards. I was like, whoa, dude. Threw him into a corner, and I went to hit him, and he goes like this, you know, he just puts his hands up, and I was just like, walk away. But, you know, everybody in high school is like, oh, what the hell, man? You know, they want to see a fight. There's no honor in that. Yeah. There's no honor in that. That's the martial artist coming out in you. You know what I'm saying? That's the real, that's how you know you're a real martial artist, because you beat that guy, but at the end of the day, you were just like, didn't feel that good, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I was like, I mean, we can make the argument that, yeah, I probably could have went pro right away. And, you know, I won the Pan Ams and the Worlds as a juvenile for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I was coming off that. This was Actually, no. Yeah, I think I just won it at juvenile at 17, and then the next year I turned 18, and I was like, "Here we go. This is what I've been waiting for so long. Like, I'm ready to get in this
Yeah.
cage and, go hard." Because I mean, I've been practicing stand up and jiu-jitsu and wrestling and everything at that point. Like, I was ready to go. I was convinced that I was going to the UFC and nothing was going to stop me. And then,
I was just as excited for you, to be honest with you. Like, I was just as excited for your first MMA fight.
yeah, I mean, you can listen back on I had pretty much the entire city. Like, most of the city has known me since I was a kid, and I've been telling everybody I was going to fight and make it to the UFC forever, and that was my dream, and I was going to do it, and nobody was going to stop me, pretty much. And on the little the announcer is like, man, like this kid brought out almost the whole city. Like, it was packed in there. There's a ton of people just waiting to see me fight, and I did it, and I don't know. I wasn't proud of it at the end of the day, and I kind of was over striking at that point. After that, I kind of quit doing striking. I was like, I'm just gonna finish or not finish jiu-jitsu. Sorry, I'm gonna continue doing jiu-jitsu and quit all the striking and stuff like that. It just I don't even know why. I guess it was just a mental toll. I was tired of the headaches from getting punched and kicked every day. The training leading up to an MMA fight is freaking horrendous. Like, you're just pretty much getting beat up every single day leading up to the fight.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, like, I never got paid anything. I never even got a sanctioned fight, but I was training partner for a lot of guys that were fighting in big time fights. When I was coming up, we had guys that were fighting in Bodog. We had a few guys that were fighting in Bellator, when Bellator first started. And I was training partner for those guys. And like you said, going home with headaches, going home, your body hurting every day, it's not fun, and especially when you're not the one getting in there that's going to get to be on TV or get to be on some sort of platform and show your skills, like, it really sucks. I mean, I'm not saying it sucks. Like, it's weird. It's like a catch-22. It's like, it sucks, but it doesn't suck because you get to be in there with, guys that are killers, like, I got to train with some guys that, like, I don't regret ever training with. Like, you remember John Troyer?
Yeah.
Like, I love training with John. John hit so hard. Like, man, like, that guy was just ungodly strong, his brother Matt, Matt was super strong. For a 145-pound little guy, like, dude, that guy could handle you. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's so strong. I mean, I don't regret any of that. But at the end of the day, like, the headaches, all that stuff, and then you not being able to be on that stage, on that platform, it's not worth it, It's really not. You don't have anything. I guess what I'm saying is you don't have anything to show for it at the end of the day besides the skills,
Yeah, there is, not to say that there isn't money to be made in, the fighting, but that was another thing that I really started to look at, and I talked with Chewy about this on the podcast last time. I was talking about, at one point I was almost regretting some of the decisions that I made. Like, I had put school second, I had put life second, I put everything second. It was all martial arts, all jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, like, that was the only thing I had tunnel vision on it. And then I started thinking, I'm like, man, I have no money. I'm broke. I have no money. I could barely. And then I moved out when I was 18, so I had to figure out ways that I was going to eat and stuff like that. And of course, I had Chewy and a few other people to help, but at the end of the day, they weren't helping me.
You don't want to
every single day, and I didn't want to ask help all the time and be one of those people and be like a beggar of sorts. I didn't want to have to do that.
I understand.
So I ended up, right after that MMA fight, I ended up started working a job and doing my own thing from there because I wanted to make money. And I started looking into other people that were doing this stuff. And, you hear about UFC fighters all the time, like, they can't afford to feed their family and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Unless you're one of, the top guys. I know plenty of MMA fighters, at all kinds of different places that are just making no money. They're still working this 2 or 3 jobs on top of trying to do this stuff. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, perfect example, look at Kevin. Kevin's a good buddy of ours. I've known Kevin since high school. Like, I've known Kevin for a long time. Kevin's still... He's coaching up there. He's fighting still, and he works a full-time job. Like, I mean, man, like, I mean, it's just that was one of the things that I know we're going to talk about is why I walked away from martial arts, and that's one of the big things is money. I mean, I appreciated all the jobs that I got with martial arts, but like, it didn't pay. It doesn't pay unless you're the school owner. It doesn't pay. And that's not me dogging anybody. Like, I'm not trying to trash anybody. I understand if you're a school owner, you've got bills, you've got overhead, you've got things that you got to pay, and you've got to support yourself. I get that. It's hard, but $150 a month doesn't cut it, like it just, that's no way for me to live, and I mean, Colin and Kyle gave me a shot at the beginning, with Derby City. They gave me a shot with the Taekwondo class. You helped me with that. Thomas helped me with that. I guess they, being jiu-jitsu guys, they didn't really care for a kid's Taekwondo class, and they wanted to do a jiu-jitsu class. And that, that was where I left teaching. That was the end of me teaching, and then, and that's fine. Like, I honestly, like, I had such a bad taste in my mouth for martial arts at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even fun anymore for me. Like, it wasn't. Like, I always think about this. Like, I was thinking about this earlier today before we did this. Like, people have to think about what Edens did to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what that man put me through.
Yeah, can you go into a little bit of detail on? I mean, if you don't mind, you don't have to talk about it, but you, talk about some of the stuff. And for the people that don't know, Edens was or it was Ryan and my instructor. He was the main guy for the Taekwondo in school. Ryan had worked for him for years, and that's where, again, where I met Ryan.
Yeah. So when I first started with Louisville Taekwondo Academy, as we were called, Brad Haynes was actually my instructor. He actually is teaching now over in Indiana, right next to Green Tree Mall. He has his own school. He offers Gracie Jiu-Jitsu apparently now. I'm not going to comment on him. I don't know if he's any good or not. But that was my first instructor with Taekwondo. He left. He worked for Edens as well, which most people that work for Edens end up leaving. Obviously, you're gonna find out why right here. So he leaves. He left. That was as soon as I got my probationary black belt. So I got like my black belt, like just got my regular black belt. I'm not even really like a real first degree black belt. I'm like a probationary. Like, they're basically like, okay, let's test him out, see if he's good, see if he's gonna make it here. And so I just got my black belt. Haynes decides that he wants to leave, and he's not coming back. He says, I quit. I'm going to open up my own school over here. I'm not working for Doug Edens anymore. So Edens calls me up. This is probably 2-3 months into me being a black belt. I'm a trainee instructor at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've taught maybe two kids classes all by myself, He calls me up and he says, listen, I'm in a bad spot. I have no other choice. He was like, can you run the Valley Station school for me? I'm like 15 years old at this point, and I'm just like, I guess. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I mean, you know how it is. Like, you don't want to feel like you have to say no to him, like, because it's like your Taekwondo instructor. Yes, sir. No, sir. It's so disciplined. Like, I didn't feel like I could say no, So me and my dad ran that school for like a year, and then he closed down his school that was on, what was it on? Preston. Yeah, he was across from Southern High School, next to Tech World. So he closed that school down. He came out to Valley to help me out, and work there full time now. So I didn't have to do that anymore. All right. So then we left Valley. We went down across from Gagel and Shively. We built a school in 2 weeks. Like, we literally built a school in 2 weeks. And then that's where things really like got bad for me, I believe, because Edens started disappearing, wasn't coming around as much. And he was basically just leaving me to teach all the classes. At this point, I'm a certified instructor, like I'm about a second degree black belt at this point. This is months, almost maybe a year down the road now, maybe 2 years at this point. I don't even remember at this point. It's been so long ago. But long story short, he basically had me show up at 7 a.m, Monday through Friday during summertime to run the summer program for you guys until about 4:30 until your parents came and got you, whenever. Then I start teaching classes at 5. So I'm there all day from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday during the summertime. I got paid for the summer program. Did I get paid for teaching classes ever? Never got paid for teaching one class. Yeah, no, it's really, really, really.
You
really
get a free membership and a T-shirt.
And that was pretty much it. I had a free membership, and I hate to say this, but I would take equipment anytime I needed it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I had one of my gloves or something broke or something while I was sparring, I went right into the closet and I grabbed me another one. I'm not paying for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate to make it sound like I was stealing, but I wasn't stealing. I feel like I was being stolen from, Like, my time was not being valued the way that it should be. And at the end of the day, I was a kid too. I was a kid. Like, I was a teenager. I should not have had keys to a school. I should not have had, the responsibilities that I had, but at the end of the day, like we were talking about the other night, I feel like I did a good job. I feel like I did the best that I could, I guess that's really all I could do,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard situation. I remember we used to host these big tournaments. I never even thought about this, like, until we started talking about it. Ryan was 15 years old, and I'm at the summer camp with just Ryan and this other 15-year-old running it. Like, no adults whatsoever.
No.
We were holding freaking Xbox tournaments. I remember at one point, Ryan was driving us to Kentucky Kingdom.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Next year, it got even worse when I turned 16, because then I had a license, and Edens was just like, hey, drive the short bus with all the kids on it to Kentucky Kingdom.
Yeah, we had like friggin' 15 kids or something with 2 15-year-olds watching us. That's crazy. Man. They're like, looking back at some of the stuff, you're like, wow, I never even realized. I forgot you were only, because at the time when you were a kid, you think that everybody like that is 15 and older is like, as an adult. Yeah, they know what they're doing. Like, so I was like, whatever, I'm going to go with Ryan. They were driving us all, like, put us, I mean, not that you're a bad driver or anything, or, something like that.
Well, like I said the other night, I was like, nobody ever got hurt on my on my clock or on my time, whatever, So, I mean, I think I did a good job for being a kid, like you guys were safe, you were fed.
Yeah, I mean, you did an amazing job. My dad, part of the reason that we ended up going with you and you told us to come to Derby City is because my dad respected you a lot. He thought that you were a great influence on me, and, we really liked you. We almost looked at you like a family member of sorts, because I remember we would always go to watch WWE together.
Yeah, we go eat wings at Hooters and stuff like that.
Yeah, we go to Hooters, fun, pool hall, Me, you, and my dad, we did a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
So we trusted you, and I'd have to talk to my dad and see if he even realized that you were only 15 at the time taking us all these places. I feel like a lot of people now, if they knew that, they'd be like,
what?
Wait, hold on, what?
That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, man. Like I was talking about the other night, I was like, what would have happened if I'd have wrecked that bus at 16 years old with all you kids on there? I didn't have no insurance card for that bus. I don't even know where the insurance card was for the bus. I don't even know if there was insurance on the bus.
Probably not.
Shoot, man.
That's freaking crazy.
We had some crazy times up there, man. Like we were talking about the other night, finding the rims under the bus, that somebody stole. Like, oh my gosh, we were shooting water balloons over top of the school at the cars in Dixie Highway, with Edens at one time,
just
we did some fun stuff, man. Went to Hurricane Bay every single day, Like,
yeah, it was a good time.
Gosh, man,
So, for the people that don't know, Dixie Highway is like one of the craziest places you'll ever go to, in my opinion. Like,
it's like our Las Vegas Strip in Louisville.
Basically. Yeah, it's like the Las Vegas Strip, just tons of random stuff. Like, you go to one side of Dixie, and it's like, a bunch of nice, classy people, and then you go down a little bit further, and it's just like the hood where you're almost like scared that you're gonna get shot.
And then a little bit further, and there's some rednecks and some meth down that way,
Yeah, you just keep going. It's like a different section every time, but then they all kind of like combine together, and it's almost scary. Pot. You got people like on a highway just running across the road. I used to do it. I used to think it was normal. Like when I was 15 years old, running across the highway because they don't have a crosswalk or anything. You're like playing Frogger, just looking at the cards. But I was like, it's either I starve or I run across the road and get me some food.
Yeah, that's true.
So I remember doing that. Man, it's crazy. But anyways, I was leading to this point. So when I was working at Derby City on Fridays, the craziest people would always come in. I'll tell you a few stories because it's pretty funny. So the first guy comes in and he's like, hey, man, I'm going to have to shut you guys down. And I was like, shut us down? I was like, what are you talking about? And I was about to call Chewy and be like, hey, there's a guy like here saying he's going to shut us down and all this stuff. Is like, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait a minute. And I went back to him. I was like, why are you shutting us down? He's like, because you guys are fake martial artists, and I'm going to shut you down with my electric rod, and all your power is going to go out. You'll never have internet again. You're not going to have internet here. You're not going to have internet at your house. And he just kept going on, and I was like, I was really about to call Chewy, like, to tell him that we were getting shut down. And
the law's here. They're trying to shut us down.
So then I was like, okay, it's one of those guys. Because we would get like a different person that was just completely insane every Friday for some reason. and
Did you ever encounter
I
James?
worked the gym on Fridays, so I was there pretty much by myself. So I'm like, you know what? I'll play along with it. I'll be like, all right, I'm sorry you got to shut us down, man, but have you ever heard of jiujitsu before? He's like, yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't do that stuff. I do ninjutsu. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't practice that jujitsu shit either. And he's like, I've heard of Chewy. I actually put Chewy in a lock, and if I would have applied that lock fully, he would have been screaming. He would have been screaming and squealing like a pig. And I was just like,
yeah, I believe that.
I actually have video of it.
I've seen that video actually, because when you were talking about this, I was like, this sounds so familiar.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen this before.
I posted it before.
I'll say you posted it, didn't you?
Yeah, I posted it before on one of my pages. I'll have to find the video and go back. But it was just hilarious. It's like, I got a lightning rod, and I'm going to take you guys out. I practiced ninjutsu, and he put Chewy in a submission, and if he would have did it fully, Chewy would have been, like, crying. Ever heard of jiu-jitsu before?
Well, I have, but I don't use it.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that bullshit either.
I actually took ninjutsu.
Ninjutsu?
That,
I don't watch much wrestling.
I had him in one. If I gotten it all the way in, you would have been screaming.
Oh, yeah, probably.
That's good. Have you ever encountered James?
James? No.
The blonde one?
I don't think so.
On Dixie? Oh, you gotta know who I'm talking about. The one that has his pants like all the way down to his knees every day.
Yeah.
And, like he's the regular. Everybody on Dixie knows who James is. He's just. I was in Big Lots the other day and he was stealing headphones. So
Chewy has a good story too. I'm sure he's talked about this. There's another guy that walked in with a freaking samurai sword on Chewy. You just get the craziest people, and it seemed like it was always like during the day, like during 9 hours, and then on Fridays. So I learned my lesson. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start locking the door until it's time for classes, because usually the people that would come up during the 9 hours on Dixie, anyways. It was always somebody like that was gonna give you a hard time, or just crazy and stuff like that.
So they're high.
That's Dixie Highway for you. Always somebody trying to fight you.
I always remember when I used to show up early, I used to have to knock it or text you and let you know, like, hey, I'm showing up. Unlock the door for me real quick.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't gonna take my chances of somebody walking in there freaking going at me or something. I was like, I don't even want to deal with that anymore.
I mean, we're martial artists, but we can't stop bullets and knives and stuff. So
yeah,
I agree.
So, how did you end up finding Derby City?
Well, while we were doing Taekwondo at the Taekwondo school, probably about a year or two before the ending of the Taekwondo school, I started doing mixed martial arts, which at the time wasn't called mixed martial arts fighting. It was called no holds barred. MMA wasn't even a term yet. We were training at Hester's at Bullitt County. Basically, it was just a gym. Regular gym with weights and stuff like that, regular fitness gym. And then they had a room with like mats, kind of how we had at the Taekwondo school. And Louisville MMA, we just rented it out, and we used it. Jason Y, he's Louisville MMA's big coach. He was my first mixed martial arts coach, so I went out there, started doing that with them. It was pretty clear that Hester's didn't like us. They thought we were like bar fighters and street fighters, bar brawlers, whatever you want to call it. I'm 14, 15 years old. I'm not even old enough to get into a bar, Like, I'm just a traditional martial artist that likes to do different martial arts, and so we quickly found out they didn't like us very much there. Like, the attitudes were always pretty bad, and it was always kind of like when we were done, it was always like, we're in Bullitt County, so, it's get, boy, So we ended up finding Colin and Kyle opened up Derby City, and Jason was in talks with them, and, they offered us a pretty good deal on, monthly memberships because we were bringing so many people over. They were like, we'll give you guys a discount, since you guys are coming over as a whole crew. So we went over there. They gave Jason MMA class, all this kind of stuff. That's when they gave me the Taekwondo class. And that's basically how I found Derby City. And then I know it's gone through some changes, with ownership and all that kind of stuff since then. I know when you came down there, it was Colin and Kyle originally. But I think Colin and Kyle really started it around here, like the whole jiu-jitsu craze, really. Like, I think they're the guys that everybody needs to say thank you to, for bringing jiu-jitsu to Louisville, really. I mean, there was a couple other schools that did it, but nobody like Colin and Kyle,
Oh yeah, they're definitely the OGs. Kyle's went and trained at Atos. He trains in Brazil right now.
I was saying he lives in Brazil now, doesn't he?
Yeah, he lives in Brazil and trains,
goodness.
and I think he's teaching English there now. And Colin, Colin was one of the people that really expanded my game. Well, him and Kyle, they both showed me a lot of stuff. But I'm still friends with them too. I still talk to them all the time. Colin is actually the person who works on my website and everything.
Oh, cool.
So he's the one who designed my website, chadthebeasthardy.com. He helps me put the courses together. He gives me ideas. We kind of feed off each other, give each other ideas. I'm going to have him on the podcast as well because
that'd be a good episode.
We're talking about people that are just smart. Like,
yeah.
He is a genius.
He really is.
That man, he'll take something, and he'll have an idea, and he'll make it, and it'll be like a $1 million idea, and be like, you know what, I'm going to start on the next thing. Just imagine having the brain to be able to be like, yeah, I'm going to make these multi-million-dollar ideas, and then we're going to go to the next one, and we're going to make another one, and then we're going to do another one. It's crazy, and he's one of the
look at Derby City.
Yeah.
Look at Derby City when it started. You remember walking in there when it first started? Remember the cage?
Yeah.
Dude, come on. Anybody that walked in there that was a fan of UFC and they turn that corner and they see that cage, you're signing up. I don't care who you are. You're signing up. Even if you don't show up, even if you don't ever show up, you're signing up and you're going to pay Colin.
Yeah, I remember, when you first start something, you're not in, you don't know. I'm trying to think of how to word this. Like you said, you see that cage and you've been watching fighting. You don't know anything about fighting. Like, you walk in, you're like, this is the place to be right here. They got the cage, they got two sides, the gym's huge. It looked like a professional gym, something that you would see, for the UFC.
Right out the gate.
Yeah, right out the gate. And, Colin and Kyle, they did all that. And they started from a little jazzercise place.
Yep.
And they moved up to that.
I haven't talked to Colin in a long time, but, I love that dude to death, man. Whenever I had nowhere else to go, he gave me a place to go. He gave me a mat to teach on. When I didn't have anywhere to teach, he gave me, opportunities. Granted, it didn't work out, and that's neither here nor there. It's all good. But he gave me that opportunity. He believed in me enough to give me a shot,
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I do appreciate it.
That's awesome. It's kind of funny because I actually became an enforcer. Sorry.
For good reason.
Yeah. So I became the enforcer for Taekwondo, and then as soon as I not left the Taekwondo, it closed down. As soon as I went to jiu-jitsu, I became the enforcer for Colin, Kyle, and Chewy. So I went from being your enforcer to the enforcer for jiu-jitsu, and it's kind of funny because when you look at me, I look like some skinny little nerdy dude.
Not the case at all.
Yeah, not the case at all. There's so many people in jiu-jitsu that are just freaking...
I can attest to this. It's the tightest triangle choke I've ever been in my life, okay? Tightest triangle choke I've ever been in my life.
Yeah,
I'm not playing. I've rolled with some nasty people. Not as many as you, but I've rolled with some nasty people. When we did that Renato Tavares seminar, scariest dude I ever rolled with in my life. That dude don't put nothing on you half-assed at all.
Oh yeah, he's gonna try.
I never rolled with a real Brazilian before. You know what I'm saying? A real Brazilian dude. Never again. Never again.
Yeah, Renato's awesome, man.
Those dudes ain't playing, man.
Yeah, Renato.
When he's making Colin and Kyle over here choke when he's putting them in stuff, he's just over here showing us a technique or something, and he puts I remember he put Colin, or I think it was Kyle or something, in a choke, and he put him in it just to show us, and it was I heard Colin go, or Kyle go, choking. I'm like,
yeah, dude, I remember, so I kind of do it now too, just because I got it from Renato, and, a lot of the top guys, and it's not even that we really mean to. JT, so for example, I don't know if you know who JT Torres is, but he's, okay, so, yeah, JT's probably one of the best people in jiu-jitsu, arguably, and, he came out and did a seminar at Derby City. Dude, he put me in this move, and I didn't expect his pressure to be, so rough. Dude, he did it, and I felt like my neck just broke in half, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, and that's what, Renato and all of them, when they were showing a move, it was freaking tight, and you're like, okay, this is what it's supposed to feel like compared to kind of like an arm bar. Someone who doesn't really know the mechanics, the breaking mechanics of an arm bar, they put you in an arm bar, you're like, I can fight. Someone that knows how to put an arm bar on, you ain't twisting.
No, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah,
no. And if you do, they're going to switch to something else, because you know what I'm saying. They're going to switch to key lock, whatever they got to switch to finish you. you know. But man, like I just those guys, like I don't want nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Nope, nothing to do with the Brazilian guy. Brazilian guy starts talking shit to me, and he's like, "Oh, you want to fight?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to fight. Like, I don't want to fight. Are we gonna stand up? Or are we gonna go to the ground? We're gonna go to the ground. I don't want nothing. I don't want nothing to do with you."
So
Nothing.
what do you? So you don't practice any martial arts anymore. What did you end up moving on to?
Well, I still hit bags and stuff like that. Like I still got gloves, and I've still got stuff where I'll train here and there. But I ended up transitioning over to bodybuilding recently. Actually, I'm a personal trainer. I love fitness. I like lifting weights. But just like you said, got tired of the headaches. Got tired of I basically got tired of getting the crap beat out of me for no money. Like going home every night and being sore, being hurt, and then I look at my bank account and I'm like, nothing to show for it. Bodybuilding really doesn't have any money in it either, but I'm not banging my head into a weight, or somebody's not punching me in the face constantly. So just lifting weights and eating, things like that. But I still do the martial arts. Like I still, I feel like I practice as a martial artist with everything I do because the discipline's there. You can't be a bodybuilder and not be disciplined. And that discipline comes from martial arts. Like you have to eat certain things, you have to lift, you have to do your cardio. There's a lot of things you don't want to do as a bodybuilder, as a martial artist, but it's the discipline. That's what separates somebody who's good versus great or bad to good. It's that discipline. So like when I don't want to drink my protein shakes, like that's the biggest thing. Getting my protein in. Like that's my biggest thing as a bodybuilder is making sure I get my protein in every day. At 2 a.m. sometimes I don't want to drink a protein shake, before I go to bed, but sometimes I have to. I know I have to, in order to maintain muscle. It sucks. But yeah, that's what I moved over to is bodybuilding and lifting weights and training people now. So I'm still coaching, still doing, kind of the same stuff I always was doing. And I like to try to like add martial arts into, cardio exercises and things like that. Everybody remembers Taibo, Billy Blanks. That's basically all Taekwondo really is at the core is almost like, what I'm saying, like the jabs, the cross, the hooks, the uppercuts, the kicks. If you sit there and you keep moving with it, it's cardio,
Yeah.
So I like to add that in, and I think that makes me a little bit better of a personal trainer because I can also teach you martial arts.
And I think I talked about this with Chewy a little bit, and just to kind of expand so people don't think that, it was all about money the entire time for us.
No, it's definitely not, but you got to live your life.
Yeah.
Like you have bills to pay, like even like just because I'm a black belt, doesn't mean that LG&E's going to be like, well, he's a black belt. He might kick our ass. We can't send him a bill, like, no, they're still going to send me a bill for my electricity, my water, my cable, everything, So if martial arts isn't paying, like you have to move on to something else. That's just life, like not saying you can't do your martial arts. Like I talked about Kevin earlier. Kevin's a perfect example. Kevin does his martial arts. He fights like he wants to. He coaches people like he wants to, but he still has his job at the end of the day because he knows he has bills to pay, it sucks. There was a fighter the other day that they were talking about, was it Ashley Evans Smith? I'm talking about. She fights in the UFC.
I'm not familiar, but
I think it was her. I forget who it is. If I got the name wrong, my bad. But they had a ring, the little ring things on your door or whatever with the camera.
Yeah.
So they had a video of her and her husband the other day. They went and they picked up a free dresser at somebody's house, like off of Craigslist or something. This is a girl that fights in the UFC. She fights in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the biggest organization there is for mixed martial arts. She's picking up free furniture off of people's doorsteps. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, You would expect a UFC fighter, like, you could go to IKEA and buy a freaking shelf or a bookshelf or something. Nobody's going to, you're not going to bat an eye at it, because you're a UFC fighter, right? You're a professional athlete, It's not the case, That's the big misconception nowadays is that people think that if you're on that TV and you're fighting in a cage on there that you're making millions of dollars, and you're really not. Well, I mean, a lot of those guys are making $50,000.
Here's another thing. I mean, I'm sure people understand it, but they don't really think about stuff like this. But for like all the tournaments that I do, and this is what kind of not really made me mad for a little bit, but kind of made me skeptical of everything. I'm paying for an IBJJF, I'm paying $140, and then granted, if I win like the Worlds or the Pans, it's a huge deal. I'm gonna get seminars, stuff like that for it. But I've won the DC Open, the Vegas Open. I can continue with the tournaments that I've won. But from those tournaments, like, I didn't make a penny.
Yeah, you actually spent money.
I
'Cause you had to
spent
travel
money.
to get there, hotels, food, all that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
not cheap.
And then, if, there's a lot of people that will release products, and I've been lucky enough to, where a lot of my supporters, they'll buy my stuff. I've sold probably over, I can't even tell you how many shirts, just like little fundraisers with shirts. You'll see people walking around with my shirt all over Louisville and stuff like that. So, I've been one of the lucky ones, and I'm still not making like, a ton of money. But for the people that are martial artists doing the same thing as me, but they don't have they don't have Colin to build them a website or do this stuff or to release their products and stuff, they're struggling. And I felt it, and that's where I was for a little bit. I didn't have a way to platform myself really, or to get anything going. I felt it's a hard thing being a martial artist, and for me, I would have continued doing martial arts. Even if I had to work my full-time job, I still would have did it. I think like if I had took the alternate route, where I really wanted to focus on my career, I probably would have took less days off to do jiu-jitsu, because at that point I would be doing jiu-jitsu more for a hobby rather than a career. But it's a hard thing, man.
Definitely, that's why that's kind of why I walked away from it, and I'd say I walked away from it. Like I said, I still practice as a martial artist. I still hit bags and things like that. I still treat my everyday life as a martial artist. Because I think once you're a martial artist, you've been doing it as long as we have, you're always a martial artist. Deep down, you always have that inside of you. It doesn't go anywhere. It's ingrained in you. Like muscle memory. It's like kind of what you were saying earlier with like putting the chokes on, super hard and stuff like that, like securing things super tight even when you're practicing. That's just muscle memory. You're just doing it how you know how to do it at this point, and that's kind of how I feel like everyday life is at this point. I'm just doing the things that was ingrained in me years ago, but it's also a hard transition. It's like, how do you transition into the normal world? Like I talked to somebody about this the other night. This might sound crazy, but like I find it hard to take orders from someone that can't kick the shit out of me. Like, does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, I understand. There's plenty of times at my job where I'm like, this guy, and for the most part, like my boss Jason, one of the nicest, coolest dudes like I've ever met. He's one of my bosses, and most of my bosses were pretty cool. But every now and then they would try to like, almost like step up to you and like belittle you and be like, you're, you dumbass or like something like that. And I would just look at him and be like, do you really want to go there? Because but
I'll get fired.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. Like, yeah, you're like, man, I'm gonna get fired from my job for this, this asshole trying to step up to me. So yeah, it is. I get where you're coming from.
I've been fired about 4 or 5 times for that exact reason, because like I can't let someone
run over
disrespect me. Yeah, I can't feel disrespected. Like it's just, I don't know if it's just the whole martial arts thing, and like I said, it's just hard to take orders from someone that literally like in a physical setting couldn't do anything to you. Like some of these dudes that run these like perfect example, like I worked on air tools a couple of years ago. Like I was an air tool technician. Dude that ran the shop, complete asshole. He's just a jerk to everybody. And it's like, would you treat me that way if we were out in the street? Probably not.
Yeah, I think
because
people
I'm gonna eat your teeth.
Yeah, people at positions and power kind of get to their head. That's why, you'll see it in martial arts schools as well. Like, oh, I'm a black belt, I'm better than you in all these aspects. I mean, at the end of the day, like, nobody cares about your black belt.
No,
like, who are you? Like, they don't care.
Like, I have a plaque and a belt, and they're for me.
Nobody cares. Like, yeah, there's thousands of black belts out there, like, whatever. Nobody's gonna.
And who's to say you're one of the reputable black belts? That's the other thing. Did you pay for your black belt, or did you actually earn that black belt? Like that's one thing like that I definitely don't like about a lot of martial arts nowadays, is that it's monetary, like you said. A lot of times people are like, well, here's some money. Oh, here's your belt.
And that's where we come to where we're in jiu-jitsu right now. So, I mean, taekwondo and karate and all this stuff had been around so long that, it almost got, not that jiu-jitsu is watered down right now, I'm trying to think of a way to not offend like all. But
no, I understand exactly what you're saying. You've got guys that are doing that stuff in jiu-jitsu. It's just like every other martial arts.
Yeah,
You've got guys that are for
it's
real.
a hard
You got
thing.
guys
So
that are not
you've
for
been
real.
training like, I got this guy who's been training 14 years, but he's still not. He'll never be at the same level as like a high level competitor or something like that. So jiu-jitsu is a hard line to draw, because also in my classes, I got people that are 60 and 70 years old. So do I say, this guy's not a blue belt because, he can't compete with my 20-year-olds? Or do I say, yeah, he's a
Exactly.
blue belt because, he has the knowledge, he knows the moves and techniques. So that was one of the things when I became a main teacher that I really started to look at. I'm like, when I was a kid, if somebody gave someone a belt that didn't deserve, or that I thought didn't deserve it, or something like that, I was kind of like, I was almost upset about it. But now, as I get older and I start seeing like that, I kind of look back at Taekwondo. They were almost doing the same thing.
Yeah, you got to understand what level somebody's at, basically.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like everybody's going to be on their different scale.
Like for what Nick was doing there, for what Nick was doing, Nick is doing top of the line stuff for Nick.
Yeah.
So that's why Nick got his black belt. But could Nick go out and use that stuff on somebody in a practical setting? I don't think so. I mean, that's just my opinion, though. I don't, but these people, obviously, people are listening, they don't know Nick. But what I'm saying is, like, there's certain people out there that get black belts that can't use what they've been taught. Like, they just can't. They'll freeze up like a deer in the headlights. I've seen it plenty of times. Thomas is a great dude. I love Thomas to death, man. I do. Me and Thomas have been friends for over 20 years. I love Thomas. But just as well as I do, if someone gets in Thomas's face in public and started something with him, exactly, he's going to freeze up and he's not going to know what to do. He's going to look for me or you, But
that's happened before, actually.
It has. Oh, man. That's another thing. Like you being like, a kid, you were beating up adults, at the Taekwondo school. Like sometimes like you were whooping up on adults, like you and Thomas always had that going on. Like, y'all had like this rivalry going on. But I think it was more of like a friendly thing. Like you were like I think Thomas looked at you like a little brother, but you were like that little brother that could kick his ass,
I love Thomas. Thomas is, he's a super cool dude. So when I was a kid, I had ate McDonald's. I ate like this huge Big Mac, and he freaking just nailed me in the stomach, made me throw up all over the mat.
I remember that.
Ever since that day, I was like, when I get older, Thomas, I'm coming after you. But yeah,
you didn't have to get older.
Yeah, I just started going harder. I was like, all right, I'm going to start going as hard as I can now.
How funny was it, though, at Derby City, though, when he first came down there, though, and you were trying to get him to do jiu-jitsu and everything with you? Like, he would not do jiu-jitsu at all. We kept trying to get him I think he came to one class, and he was just like, yeah, I'm done with this.
It was kind of funny.
I don't think he likes people like,
when I found out how, like, powerful jiu-jitsu was. So think about this. I'm 11 years old. I had been doing jiu-jitsu for, I think it was like 6 months before you guys came over, something like that, maybe a little bit longer.
See, I was over there teaching, but I wasn't in your classes. Remember, that's when they had the kids' jiu-jitsu class.
I was actually running that class myself.
Yeah.
So, 11 years old running the jiu-jitsu. But anyways, Thomas finally comes over, and I'd been doing jiu-jitsu for a while. And when we were doing like capoeira and stuff like that, he would start striking, and I was like, you know what? I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a while now. It was like, so I just stopped the striking. I would take him down and choke him, and he would get so mad, and it was like, you can't do that. I'm like, why? It's part of fighting. That's when I realized like how powerful jiu-jitsu was, because I was taking, I was 11, 12 years old, and Thomas was like 17. I was just taking him down.
He's older than me, yeah.
Yeah, I was taking him down. He couldn't do anything. And that's when I was like, wow, this stuff is freaking powerful. Like, I'm 11 years old taking down these kids, or these teenagers and stuff. I see it to this day. I got a little kid. He's 10 years old, just whooping up on 15-year-olds. And they're looking at me like, what'd you do to this kid?
Does he wrestle too?
No, he just does jiu-jitsu. He's been doing jiu-jitsu for 7 years now. His name's Ethan.
I don't know if it was like this for when you were a kid, but like I never liked to tell anybody when I was in school that I was a martial artist, really. Because kids will test you. You have stupid kids that like, oh, he's a black belt. I want to find out what a black belt can do.
When the word got out in school that this is probably the worst thing. I won the world championships and then I won the world and the pan championships. I think this was like my sophomore year in high school. So they made I think they made an announcement, and I got put in the yearbook and stuff like that for winning the world.
That's exactly what happened.
Everybody's
to me my
like,
sophomore year.
"We got a world champion here!" Like, all right. So I ended up like we'd be in the locker rooms, all just like wrestling and fighting all the time because somebody always has to test themselves and come up to you. And at the time, I didn't care because I was like, "Yeah, I like fighting anyway." So I'll do it. I'll get in there.
I think it was sophomore year for me. Actually, it was Knoxville. It was the year after I got disqualified. I won the national championship at that Knoxville tournament that next year, and they had announced it over the intercom my sophomore year, and I was just sitting there. I was just like,
"Why'd you do that?"
I was like, "Here we go," And little did we know, about 3 people tried to fight me over the next few months. Just because we want to find out what he knows. We want to find out what he knows. Why? Why? You want to get whooped?
It almost puts a target on your back.
It really does. Yeah. I mean, because you got stupid, egotistical kids out there that just want to find out what they're capable of. Like they don't care if they get beat up. Oh, I got beat up by a black belt. Big deal.
Yeah. But if they beat you, like they're the
exactly.
They're the
then I
best
look
in
like
the
an
world.
idiot. Yeah. Then I look like an idiot. But it's all situational. Like anybody can be beaten by anybody. That's what I like to call them the casuals. That's what the casuals don't understand is that you could be somebody that doesn't fight and you could beat a pro fighter on the street. Anything could happen out there.
Yeah,
lucky punch. Out. That guy could slip and fall, hit his head on the concrete.
Yeah.
Then it looks like you're the man, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably happened before. I mean,
definitely.
Someone could go up and hit me from behind and knock me out. It's freaking, it's part of it.
But they only got the second part of the video with the person over top of you trying to ground and pound you, where it just looks bad. They didn't get the sucker punch on video. 2 sides to every story.
Yep. Exactly. So another funny thing leading back to, the different types of black belts and stuff like that. I remember this kid in school. This was before everybody found out about me. And, at the time, like, I loved, I was almost like, and I had heard about the Gracies, how they always, like, they always challenged anybody who thought that they were, good and stuff like that. And I was like, this kid would always, like, everybody talked about him in school, like, oh, this kid does karate. He's like the baddest dude ever. And you'd see him in the hallways, like doing his forms and stuff like that. And in my head, I'm just like smiling, like, I would destroy this kid. Like,
You're doing forms.
Yeah, I was like, he's over here doing forms and stuff like that. I'm like, man.
So double knife hand blocks over in the
hallways. Yeah, like my school, we did the forms, but we did like 5 minutes forms, like 40 minutes sparring.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
do you know your form? You know the moves in your form? Okay, we're gonna go spar. Like,
yeah. So I'm just watching this guy do his forms. Everybody's talking about. Well, one day somebody decides like, hey, I'm gonna test this kid, and they walk up. He's like, let's fight. And of course, being a martial artist, he's like, no, man, I don't want to fight. And it's like, all right. Finally came to the point. Well, the kid, like, not the Taekwondo kid, the other kid that was approaching him, he walks up, just cracks him as hard as he can, and the Taekwondo guy just kind of froze, just stood there. And I think it goes back to that, if you've never been in a live situation, this is why I recommend that everybody does at least like one tournament. Because in that tournament, it's real. Like, people don't say, people hate it when people call jiu-jitsu like a fight and stuff like that. But I mean, it's freaking real. That person's going in there, they're trying to tear your head off. So I think that's an important thing to have because let's say you've never been in a situation where someone's actually like coming at you 120%, like they want to hurt you.
Yeah.
You've never been in that situation, you're gonna freeze up,
Yep. And it's different from Taekwondo. Like what you're saying here, like I'm just doing this for your viewers, is different from Taekwondo. Taekwondo tournaments and jiu-jitsu tournaments, totally different. Taekwondo tournament, I'm not hitting this person as hard as I can. Trust me, even when I was getting disqualified, I was probably hitting 70, 75%, if that, Jiu-jitsu tournaments, it's 150%.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no pulling anything. Like, when someone grabs you, they're grabbing you as hard as they can. When they try to put a submission on you, they're putting it on you as hard as they can, or they should be. If they're not, they're doing it wrong. Jiu-jitsu tournaments, basically my point is jiu-jitsu tournaments are savage. They're so different. Like, if you think you've been in some type of tournament before, like with striking or whatever, unless it was an MMA fight, it wasn't for real. It wasn't for real. Unless it was a boxing match or something, it wasn't for real. Jiu-jitsu tournaments, nothing like them in the world. Go. Yeah. And if you've never been to one, go watch one. Just go watch one.
Yeah.
You'll be blown away.
I mean, it's kind of funny, from an outside perspective, you watch some of the black belt matches and stuff like that where people are sitting on their butt now, they're pulling guard and stuff like that. People don't understand, like, the technicality behind that. Like, if someone gets to their position, let's say, like, me, by far, my best position is guard. If I get you in guard, you're going to be in a world of trouble. So if someone,
Yep.
so if I'm looking at someone who's amazing at guard, then, it might be a better option to pull guard. Now, in an actual fight, I'm pretty sure that everybody in jiu-jitsu that's done jiu-jitsu knows, like, yeah, take them down and get on top. But yeah, going back to your point, when you see, like, these black belts finally get the submissions and stuff like that, they're freaking, at a high level, man, they're trying to rip your arm off. Like, I've seen matches, like, their faces, like, I mean, I've done the same thing because, again, I don't want to lose. They don't want to lose. I've let my arm pop out of place just so I could escape some submissions. So it's a real thing. Weird.
And sometimes you guys don't have a time limit either. I mean, sometimes the time limit's like, 30 minutes sometimes?
Sometimes I do no time limit matches. Sometimes I do the EBI rules. IBJJF for a black belt is a 10-minute match. 10 minutes. God,
I think it should be longer.
Longer?
I think so. Just because, I mean, you had Rafael Lovato and Cyborg, Cyborg's husband. They rolled for 30 minutes at one of the EBI events like a month or two ago.
Right, so
they went for 30 minutes.
Here's personal everybody thinks differently and stuff like that. So let's say we are at this tournament here, right? Doesn't matter what tournament it is. It could be the Worlds, could be IBJJF Chicago, regular tournament, doesn't matter. Let's say you have 5 matches that day.
All go 30 minutes.
Each match goes 10 minutes, or it goes 30 minutes. God, dude, you'd be so tired you wouldn't be able to move. And then
That's true.
And then I think it would lead to more boring matches. Almost like, you watch the World Championships or an IBJJF match now, a lot of them are just kind of holding on because it's a hard thing. Let's say I just put a hard 10-minute match, like we fought to the death, and then you get sometimes you get your full break. A lot of times they're like, hey, you ready to go? Like 5 minutes after you just did this, battle to the death, and you got to go against another guy. Mm-hmm. And you're like, man, it's tough. I think that all matches should be 7 minutes. I feel like it doesn't matter. I think 7 minutes.
I'll agree there. I guess though, for me, I'm just being a little greedy, and I like that whole 30-minute with Lovato and Santos. Yeah. But they were also just doing a super fight. It was just between them.
Super fights, I agree. They should be.
There we go.
To the death there,
there we go. 30 minutes for a super fight, 7-10 minutes for normal tournament matches. I'll agree with you there because I wouldn't want to get out into a tournament and you just with a stalemate for 30 minutes with this guy and you just arms are spent, legs are spent, everything's just grips spent, everything's just spent at this point.
I got one more question for you here.
All right, what's that?
Do you have any liabilities?
No liabilities.
That's right. All right, brother.
No cares.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, one more thing, man.
Yeah.
I want to say this one thing, dude. I cannot explain to you how proud I am of you, man. Like, really. Like, for real. Like, knowing you your whole life, you know what I'm saying? Like, never thought that we'd be here. You'd be where you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, just so proud of you, man. Just keep doing what you're doing. No liabilities. Keep crushing it. Keep killing people.
I appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Talk to you tonight.